Howdy folks, and welcome to episode 2 in my Armageddon series. In this series I'll be collaborating with Mike from Flashing Badger Painting as we split the box down the middle. I paint the Space Marines and he paints the Orcs. In my first video I focused on the Intercessors and completed all 10 of these in the scheme of the Marauders chapter, a White Scar successor. The idea behind this whole army is that I do all of the squads in different White Scar successors, finishing up with the captain, who is a full White Scar. This next squad, the Beefy Boys, are going to be done in the scheme of the Destroyers chapter. Black plate with yellow pauldrons and helmets here as we go for an Angry Hornet vibe. There are only 3 miniatures in the squad here, and these guys are beefy boys, and I'm really excited to paint them up in this scheme. I have to say this is my absolute favourite successor chapter for the White Scars, and I've been using this scheme in my Space Marine 2 games. Anyway, on with the video. I have to do this in sub-assemblies, and what I've done here is I've separated the arms and helmet and primed them in Wraithbone spray, while the body and the base have been primed in Chaos Black. You'll notice that I've left the pegs on the arms on in this case because we're going to do something with that later on. For the basing materials, it was a mixture of sand, gravel and eggshell, would you believe, from my leftover breakfast. Kicking things off with the torso, backpack and legs, we are going to go in with a sponge from above with Corvus Black. This is pretty much the black done past this point. We're then going to move on to the yellow details. Over the top of my Wraithbone spray on the helmets and pauldrons now, I'm going to fill out this with Doomfire Magenta contrast paint, which is a very bright, vivid, warm pink. Now, making sure to absolutely douse these parts with the Doomfire Magenta, making sure to get into the creases and crevices. I don't want any bubbles or areas where the Wraithbone is left underneath. It doesn't matter if things are a little bit too splotchy and pulled in areas, because we're going to go over this with some more Wraithbone shortly. For the pauldrons, we don't want to do the entire arm, we're really only trying to do the actual pauldron itself, which is quite annoying with these miniatures because they are actually one piece and they're attached to the arm and the gun. Onto the leathers now. While the Doomfire Magenta is drying, we're going to use Rhinox hide just to block out any of the pouches. This is a very nice dark chocolatey brown. Moving on to Wraithbone out of the pot here, we're going to just mask out the purity seals, and you might want to do 2 thin coats of this. Onto the chest Aquila Eagle there, we're going to do this with Army Painter's Emperor Gold. This is just going to be marked out on the chest there and any other sort of relics and details that might be hanging off the waist or pauldrons. Moving back to our yellow details, you notice that I've hit these from above again with my Wraithbone spray, leaving the magenta just in the deepest recesses. Now, you won't notice it as much on the pauldrons, and you know, is it over the top? Could I have just gone in straight to yellow instead of using the Doomfire Magenta? Absolutely, but I just like the overall sort of warmer vibe that this gives. However, we're going to block out the rest of the arm and gun in a nice Chaos Black now, making sure to catch every single little detail here. We do not want any of this Wraithbone shining through. You might want to do 2 coats of this at least. Onto the actual yellow now, and this is Imperial Fist's Contrast from Citadel. Now this time I don't want things to pull too much, so just be careful as you work your way around, making sure that you coat the entirety of the Wraithbone and the magenta underneath, and you'll see by the time that this dries we have a nice warm yellow. Now it's time to assemble our models. Now the reason why I left the pegs on the arms here is because we're going to cut them off with clippers, leaving a clean plastic area for the glue to work with. Don't add too much glue to this, but we're going to want to just manipulate this while it dries and make sure that we don't get any of that sort of shiny residue left over. If you do, just go in with some more Chaos Black. I never really paint in sub-assemblies, but when using a very high contrast scheme like this, going from very dark black to very bright vivid yellow, you are going to probably want to do this because it's just so much easier. Plus it's quite fun seeing everything come together towards the end. Finally, the helmets, just move those into a position that suits the model and hey presto. Okay, now for a splash of red. And we're going to start with Blanched Berry from Army Painter. This is my absolute favorite foundation for building up nice, warm, vibrant reds. I've decided to mark out the gun casings and the sort of shields around the heavy bolters in this case as well, leaving the barrels and some of the other details on the gun for metal later on. With the blanched berry masked out and now dry, we're going to jump straight up to a very, very bright, vivid red in Evil Sun's Scala. This I'm going to use an old brush with, and we're going to use a stippling motion all over this, moving my brush like a tattoo gun at a sort of high speed here, just stabbing the paint in. What this is going to do is give you slightly more sort of wear to the overall finish of this. By the time it's dry, you can really see through it and see some of those darker tones underneath. Make sure you catch the areas that are most likely to be hit with light, so the uppermost areas where the light source is coming from. After that, we're going to move on up to Wild Rider Red now, and this is going to be a final edge highlight, a very rough edge highlight just along the uppermost edges of the gun casing. This is just going to make things pop even more. Next onto the metal areas now, and this is heavy metal from Army Painter. This is going to be for the gun barrel, the handles, and any sort of grenades and doodads on these guys as well. For the paper on the purity seals, we're now going to be using Citadel Contrast Skeleton Horde. I find this is perfect for not only bones, but also paper details too. Moving on to another Citadel Contrast here, and this is for all of the metal. The gold and silver details will be masked out with Rattling Grime, a nice thick coat of this dark wash all over it, just to darken things down and make the metal look slightly more realistic. We're at the halfway point here, so let's check on Mike from Flashing Badger to see how he's getting on with his orcs.
Welcome back, Damon. I'm taking a break from my painting and I want to check in and see how you're going.
Good, mate. Yeah, good. It's been an interesting morning. We're nearly finished on the second squad. England are out of another World Cup, and but in some good news, I'm going to be running an event very soon.
Yes, I've heard, and I've got it saved in my calendar already. I've told my wife it's a business trip.
Yeah, I can have a word with her otherwise.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll put you on the phone.
First weekend of October in Sydney, Welly Woodstock. Anyway, this isn't about me. This is about how we're getting on with our painting. So yeah, I'm nearly finished on the second squad, and I'm about to make a start on the third squad.
Well, I'm excited because my fear was that I wouldn't even have my first squad complete and all your Space Marines would be done. But that fear has been positive. It's made me hunker down over the last few days. And yeah, I've been working on the War Track and the Dakar rig.
Rig. Oh, so good.
I think I was most excited for this model out of the whole box.
Yeah. Because it's something that's entirely new, is that correct? It's never been, it's never existed before as a 40k vehicle?
Yeah, we've had things like Death Dreads before, which is the Orc equivalent of like the Dreadnought, but we haven't had the Dakar rig, which is the mech that has his own machine. So this is pretty cool. So
it's basically a walking sort of castle, right?
Yeah, but it's nice and small. It's about the size of a Dreadnought still, or a smaller boxy Dreadnought.
Yeah.
But I love the model so much. Normally I go into a project going, how can I tweak it and chop bits off and make it my own? But I made very few changes to this one. I still had to tinker a little because it's a mech and mechs love tinkering. So I've added on like his own custom force field on the back. There's a few little electronic nodes and battery packs and things like that that I've included on the model, just so I can say mine's different. But otherwise, I tried to keep it fairly like to what we see in the box.
Yeah, awesome. It's looking great, by the way, especially all the checks as well, like just the consistency with all the checker patterns all over these guys, and yeah, all the rust and dust and filth.
Yeah, my goal there is, like, I didn't want to paint all the checks freehand because I'm going to be using a lot across the whole box. And so where they line up in different angles, I'm trying to weather those bits more, sponge over the top. And so it's not as obvious where the two decals will meet and have the cross-hatching not align. And I've got a little bit of freehand on both my models, or just the Dakar rig actually, which is the Discord members have each got to claim their own model throughout the Orc project.
Yep.
And the Dakar rig is one of our mods in the Discord has claimed it, but he wanted a freehand on one big panel. So see how there's a yellow panel on the left-hand side? So there's going to be a Loch Ness monster for some reason on that panel. So
he's Scottish, I imagine?
No, he's French-Canadian, but he's just obsessed with Loch Ness monster. Yeah, I'm going to have these complete in the next day or two, and then I'm going to send you some pretty photos, and then I'll start making the video.
Yeah,
but
me too.
I feel relieved that I've got I'll have the characters and these vehicles done, and then it just becomes assembly line, batch painting, as many of the troops, like just one after the other.
Yeah, I mean, so we've done it in reverse, basically. So I started with the squads, and I'm happy that I've done that because I feel like the laborious part is kind of almost done at this point. That said, I've obviously got a lot less models than you, so painting a squad of 3 guys is a hell of a lot easier than painting a squad of, 20 guys and some grots, right? So I feel sorry for you having to paint that many boys, because how many boys have you got, like 20?
Yeah, 20.
And 10 grots?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Unreal. Well, how about I kick you out and we get back to our painting?
Yep, lots to do.
And then we'll touch base again when we dive into our troops. Or
Perfect.
when I dive into our troops and you get into your captain.
Excellent. All right, mate.
Thanks, David.
Speak to you soon. Now it's time for the decals. Now I don't actually have any custom transfers for my destroyers or marauders or rampagers. So what I'm going to do here is reach into my Horus Heresy White Scars set and just unify everything with some nice sort of Asian style designs. For the knee pad, I'm going with this sort of kanji looking symbol, which looks pretty cool. And I did this on the intercessors too. Using micro set and micro soul, firstly, micro set goes onto the blank area. Then we put our decal on over the top and wait for it to dry before coming in with several layers, particularly on a curved surface of the second Micro Soul bottle. Micro Soul is just flipping awesome. It takes the shine away from the decal, but it also helps it adhere to an otherwise, round surface. So if you've got a transfer or decal that you want to get onto a rounder surface and it's getting creases in it, this is the way to do it. But you will need to use quite a few coats and wait for it to dry before it's absolutely perfect. Going back to the heavy metal here, I'm just going to do a little bit of a sort of rugged edge highlight to some of the black armor plates here, just to give the sort of essence of some wear and tear. Gorthor Brown is used as an edge highlight on all of the leather areas. You can be quite rough with this. It's quite a jump in terms of highlight, but if you just sort of do a scratchy sort of motion, again, slightly stippling, lots of little lines and things like that, it ends up looking pretty good. For the gold areas, we're then going to hit them with Sycorax Bronze, which is a really, really bright sort of bronzy color. We're just going to hit those uppermost areas on the chest Aquila, as well as any other gold details on the model. On to highlighting the yellow now. We're going to take a small brush and we're going to use Flash Gitz Yellow from Citadel as an edge highlight, just to tidy up any of those rugged details on the yellow. Any sort of smudging or dirt that you've put on there, this is going to be cleaned up with the Flash Gitz Yellow. Now this color is basically the same color as the yellow that we've got here. It's only very, very slightly lighter, but it's still necessary just to make things look clean. Moving on to the weathering step now, we're going to go with 2 AK enamel washes here. The first is Light Dust Deposit, which is going to be mixed with another one on the black sections of this armor to make it look dusty and worn. We're also going to use for the yellow the wash for German dark yellow as well, and this one is used with a little bit of thinning down with odorless mineral spirits. It's up to you how much you want to thin this down, but I just feel like you're going to want to thin it a little bit just so you get that capillary action. Now, it's worth noticing that I haven't actually varnished this miniature at this point because I actually want to varnish it afterwards to matte everything down a bit more. So just don't be too abrasive when removing the enamel wash. This is kind of a pin wash, but you can be quite messy here. Just try and get this into all of the recesses as much as possible. Also, while you're there, make sure to smudge and mush some of this over the actual decal, just so you get a little bit of dirt and filth to blend things in. To remove that yellow wash, we're then going to use a makeup stick, clean, just to get rid of any excess residue, and then we're going to dip it in some clean old odorless mineral spirits just to catch any of those upper areas, leaving this just in the recesses. You can use different motions here. You can wipe it away and get smooth finishes, but you can also sort of tap it on as well just to make the sort of surface smudge a little bit, particularly on the pauldrons. Makes a really nice effect. Now that the yellow is basically done, for the black areas, we're going to mix together some of those 2 washes. So the light dust deposits with some of that German yellow. So we've got a really nice, dirty, dusty sort of brown here. And this is just going to be settled into the recesses of the black to frame the black. So rather than actually highlighting the black up and making it look grey, what we're going to do is actually hit the recesses to make the black look more black, if that makes sense. Now we go back to our makeup remover sticks here as well, and we're just going to take away any of that surface buildup of this wash. So leaving this sort of dirty brown in the recesses. You might want to use a fair bit of mineral spirits on the end of your makeup stick here just to bring that black nicely back. But if you keep going at it, you'll end up with a really nice effect. Once that's dry, we're then going to take our miniatures outside and use a Winsor & Newton Artist's Matte Spray. This is very expensive, but it really does matte things down nicely. I use it on all my miniatures, and it's just perfect for bringing everything in line and making those decals look awesome. Next, onto the base, we're going to use quite a lot, and I'd say this is not for the faint-hearted, by the way. I use a blue, bright blue turquoise liquid pigment from Green Stuff World, and I squeeze it right out of the bottle onto the base here. Now you've got to be really careful, because if this splatters at all, it's going to ruin your paint job, and if this goes anywhere, it's going to make an awful mess. But I trust myself, and I'm not too worried at this point. I'm going to use gravity to help me here, just sort of loading the base completely and letting this flow into all of those eggshelly recesses. Then I take an old brush and I just work this into all the cracks and crevices, waiting for it to dry before we move on to our next pigment. Once the blue is dry, we're then going to hit the entirety of the base with a white in exactly the same way. This is a white liquid pigment from Green Stuff World. And once this is dry, we're then going to go in with some Valhallan Blizzard, I believe it's called. And this is just going to be used in sparse areas just to add a little bit of an effect of snow, particularly on the shoes and any other areas of the miniatures where you want to add a little bit more cold snow to. Once we've done that and the miniature is dry, the last thing to do is to mark out the rim of the base with a nice Chaos Black, and then it's photo time. So there you go, guys. What do you think of these? I'm really happy with where these ended up, and they tie nicely into the successors that I did in the first video. The next video will be the Rampages, which will be bright red as well. So you can see where I'm going with this. They're all sort of tying together into those three core colors, your blacks, your yellows, and your reds here. I'm really happy with where this has gone, and I love the scheme for destroyers. They are just a flipping awesome looking chapter. And I'm also really happy with where I went on the red on the weapons as well. I could have done them black or metallic, but I feel that red really does make them look like a bunch of angry Japanese hornets. So very dangerous looking dudes, and I'm sure you would not want to mess with them. Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. I was really happy with the result of this, and I'm excited to move on to the Vanguard Veterans in part 3 for our Rampages video. That's it for now. Stay tuned for the next one. Peace out.